And
Hey, good morning and afternoon, everybody. Ken at Tortoise Capital. This is lesson 30 of 30. Wow. For Creativity 202, check in with the Euros, January 22nd, 2023. And I'll just go in the order that I see you in. Chun Long, how are you today?
Really good. Today is the second day of Chinese Lunar New Year. So we just celebrated that 2 days ago.
I just got my lycée this morning from number one daughter.
Okay.
Little red envelope with money. Good.
Yeah, actually, I forget that to give to my son and niece. Almost forget the tradition, you know. If there's no TV, no YouTube, probably I couldn't remember. Oh,
Yeah. Ernie, how are you today?
Doing real well, thank you. Everything is going well with me, and I aged a year here last Thursday, ahead of my birthday, and so still here. So that's great. Looking forward to the new year.
Yeah. Tom Hardison, how are we, sir?
doing well. Got a little bit of snow overnight, and sun's supposed to come out, and I'm feeling Sanal's desire to be warm. That's where I am, being warm.
And Tom Sullivan, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good. Had a nice day off yesterday, so ready to go. I hope.
Kyun, how are things?
Things are good. I'm still recovering from finishing that presentation, by the way. So it really took a lot, but anyway, it's done, so that's great.
You did a nice job on it. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, okay. Yeah, no, it's okay. It's me and the boys. My wife has gone to Italy because she's going to see her nephew's daughter. She got a newborn. Well, 2 weeks, I think. So yeah, I'm sorry. Oh.
Sonal, how are you?
Very well, thank you. Can you guys hear me?
yes.
Yep. Happy birthday, Ernie. Happy New Year, Chun Long, Kyun,
Thank
and
you.
everybody else that's celebrating. Yeah, we are very well. We are challenged. We were trying to get home, but the train's packed up. So we found a nearby lobby, and yeah, adapting. So all good over here.
Nice. And Jeff, bring us home.
Yeah, good over here. Cold in London, hence
The hat.
even though it's actually not very cold in here, but yeah, she's often cold.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we were out. We were actually in Ealing, so we were not far from Kuhn. We almost knocked on Kuhn's door and we're like, "Can we join you for the little hatch creativity?" But we popped into a hotel here when we got scuffled by the trains, and yeah, other than that, all good over here.
Awesome. Hey, everything good here. I posted a interlude interview on the weekly check-in section. The folks at Mirasi and Rizuku interviewed me on as a success story on their hybrid workshop university or hybrid course university, and had a chance to talk a little bit about adult learning and distance learning. And I had you guys mostly in mind when I was doing that interview. It's about 12 minutes worth of goodies about insights into the changing nature of continuous distance learning with co-creating and changing roles between students and teachers and content, and things that I've learned from a career of teaching and then teaching in this manner. So I thought they did a nice job of editing it down and made it sound coherent. So I've included that for you guys. I've added that to the front end of the course because I think it did a nice job of explaining what the experience turned out to be like. I should say we'll start the my intention is just to keep this date time group going for you guys. I want to go through the 10 myths, one myth at a time, as a focal point for discussion, but really for you guys to come in and talk about whatever your work in progress is with respect to the course or whatever the application is on systems. And we just kind of keep that going. And then at some point I will get off my rear end and, advertise or market for a new cohort. I got a handful of guys that are ready to go, I think, but I want to give some more people a chance. So I think I want to get a couple of those myths, the Mythbuster lessons under our belt, and give you guys a chance to get the next phase in before I start bringing in new folks. So we feel our rhythm and our transition. So that's kind of what that's about. I'm going to send all of you guys also a draft article from the Danish FBI director, and talking about the Danish approach to team building and the importance of culture. And that project is coming along pretty well. And I think what we're going to do is use some of my officers to help the Danes build a certification course or an interning kind of course. So just one of the spin-offs of this process has been working with them on storytelling and leadership, and it's just interesting to see how that thing is unfolding. What's really remarkable is that the insights come from the exchange of stories, and how surprising each person finds the other person's story to be. Like in the areas of leadership where we are in agreement and where leadership transcends the cultures, it's sort of given. It's like, yeah, it's not surprising, but it's what we're finding is that when you are surprised by a certain element of their story that they didn't find surprising, leads to deep insights about something. And that's why the story exchange is so important. Because my insight this week, this is my little work in progress, I guess, is the idea of the apple. The story is like an apple. And so if you were going to study biology and ecosystems, you could imagine how a traditional approach to learning all that stuff, how time consuming and structured and logical and comprehensive that would be. But another way is to just start with the apple, because the apple contains everything that's in the tree and the ecosystem and the environment and the purpose and the flavor. And it has it's one case among many. Each apple is unique to itself, but it's also a member of the class of all apples. And it has so it brings together in the minimum viable product, if you will, or the minimum understandable packet, all of the essentials that allow for further application and continuity and sustainable effort. So the story as an apple is really, the essence of the idea, and becomes the unit of exchange and allows us to rapidly sort things out. And so well-told stories or authentic stories are like an apple, have that unique taste, and there's discovery and texture and all that stuff. And it's accessible. You can do whatever you want with the apple. You don't have to have first mastered all the other stuff. So the apple is the continuity between each generation, between each cycle, each wave, and it's in that exchange that the insights are coming about. Like the Danish leadership model is able to tap into a pretty homogeneous, long-lasting culture of high levels of trust between the tribal members, or the nation's members, and that has allowed a relationship between the police and the people to be qualitatively different than that you might find in the United States, a melting pot where there's an adversarial relationship these days, because that sells newspapers, I think. But it's also to be expected when you have so many different cultures represented and tensions. And so the culture of the Danes allows for quite a different relationship between the police and the people, and the Danes kind of took that for granted. And when I exposed that article to our officers and all that, it was interesting to see how they picked up right away on the the important differences in culture and what that might mean, and how do you graft the values and the benefits of a Danish approach to policing into quite a different type of soil and growing conditions. What do you have to do to prepare the ground in order that you can use those Danish leadership seeds? So we're going to be exploring some ideas like that, I think, in that project, and that's just an example of what can happen when you have sort of the forcing function of the story exchange in a regular way in a space that is safe, trusted, truthful as preconditions. Then it's inevitable that opportunities or viable seeds can produce. So it's my that the bridge between wildly varied cultural settings like melting pots can quickly create these moments of high trust culture through the exchange of stories. That, in my view, that's how you quickly discover the value in all the genetic varieties of these different backgrounds. Like, you don't need the homogeneous culture and centuries of experience in order to have the trust that you need to develop that style of leadership. That you can create those islands of trust through the principles of true storytelling and processes like we've developed here. And that's going to be my contribution to this project, is to look at the synthesis and integration, the catalysts that allow us to rapidly build teams and leaders and allow opportunities to grow. So that is kind of also my vision and hope for the next generation of this course. With to the extent you guys are willing and able and want to keep going on these little weeklies, we'll find a way to roll new people in that are experiencing the lessons for the first time. There will be a natural payoff for them when they look at the amazing work that you guys do and the examples that you set. But it also occurs to me that hearing them talk about those lessons and the impact for the first time on them is going to have a payoff for you, because that's going to resonate and bring up some of these deeply embedded memories that you had going through it, and will trigger some new things in you as you go around the mountain the second time. That there will be a real payoff for you as well. So I'm excited to see how the possibilities of that dynamic can shape out. So we'll see how that goes. But I'm pretty excited about it, and looking forward to getting going. I think it's probably we'll probably do 2 more weeks with us, is my spider sense. That'll get us into about the middle of February or the second week of February to start introducing new folks. It's going to take me that long to get off my butt and recruit, but that's kind of what it is. And I'm coming to a natural break point in our military college. It's some primetime teaching there right now, and after next week it kind of tails off, and I'm in a maintenance mode with those folks. And so I may actually bring in some of my officers periodically to share the space with us, and I think they'll have some fun. So anyway, that's my aho moment in my story and my work in progress. I want to just catch you up, so we'll get the tone started, and that was my contribution for today. So here we go. Whoop. Just a moment. Let's try that one again. on lesson 30. Chinlong, you couldn't wait
Hi,
to
everybody.
be first.
Yeah, I thought that would be better for me. Before I start my work in progress, some story to share. In last week, there's an article about the AI stuff. There's a software called Chat SPT. Basically, if you ask something, give you an answer. So I just curious about what does the AI know about Dr. Ken Long? I did that a couple of times. So I simply give a name, Dr. Ken Long. I think the results come out right. It's about your innovation on the financial investment. I think probably that come from website like a VTI website or something like that. That's right. Now I ask more questions like Frogbox. It gets almost right, but not the detail. So I get input MMRB, close, but not right. No, I input ruthless risk management, almost there, but not exact. Eventually, I get idea, the AI doesn't know much about Dr. Ken Long. Probably more people search, more people feedback, the AI will know more about you. I think that's very interesting stuff. I actually read the article about the trust, the Danish way. I also try to write some comments, but I really get a complicated feeling about that, I live in Canada, but my thought, my feelings, my sentiment still attached to China and Chinese. That's why I get really complicated feelings about trust, especially the trust between people and police. If you go to the street on China streets, right? See the conflict between police and whatever other party is. The situation is fully different. Almost there's some deep level of trust, but in the superficial level, there's no trust between the two parties, the people and the police. There's no trust. But when I think that again, there's a deeply trust. In the American movies, when there's person meet a police, there's a usual way. You listen to the police, do whatever the police ask you to do. That's the movie way, right? But in China, this is totally different. The other party will see whatever they want to say to the police, ask the police to do something the police normally will not do. They escalate the conflict. When I thought about that, there's no trust between the two parties, but there's a deeply trust in the culture, right? The people know the police will know through them. That's why they can say whatever they want to say. And, I don't know what the police say, what the police deeper, assumptions, but normally they will never shoot you. They may hit you, but they never shoot you. I think that's exercise really, interesting for me. Anyway, it's a complicated feeling for me to think about trust, especially between police and the people. That's my side notes about that. I'll go back to my work in progress. Or my notes. So my word of last week is reconcile. So that's meaning to me, it's reconcile with different part of myself. You know, Carl Jung said, what you resist persists, what you embrace dissolves. That's, I think, the meaning reconcile. How to reconcile myself, different parts. How to embrace my trading mistakes. I like what Quinn said in his presentation. He said, failure are my ally. I hope I get that right, Quinn. At least I have to accept what is and be grateful and forgetful, and so progress further. That's about my word of last week. Work in progress. Last week, I basically revised my trading log. I did take some paper swing trading just to refine my trading process. Try to collect enough data for later use. Also try to figure out, the trading details about the setups. I read or even write some trading rules, but whenever I take a trade, I have a second thought about that. Am I sure about this? Is this really the rule mean to take action here or what? So sometimes take a signal earlier, just thought about how about, and I wait for confirmation. So that's what I really did last week. Revise my trading log, collect data, think about trading rules, make sure I get it right. So lesson learned is, intraday management. Even I took swing trade, the intraday management is really important. There's an example. There's a setup for triple screen. The first day, the signal, they take long signal didn't show up because the price keeping moving down. And the second didn't come. The third day, okay, I said, that's enough. The trend is down. Then boom, that stock moved intraday up almost 30%. I missed that. The other thing is stop and reverse. I think Wednesday, I take 5DD signal on Johnson & Johnson. I did, I take it and I did get my trade, and then intraday is reversed down again and keep down in 3 days. But I didn't have the stop and reverse entry, so I missed that. So I think next action for me is to think and take stop and reverse. That's about my work in progress about swing trading. About today's lesson, today's lesson, trader's lesson is a sum up whatever we did in last 30 lessons. I think I did that in my presentation before New Year. I would rather take this chance to plan what to do for next maybe 6 months or longer. Also, it's my Chinese New Year resolution. I think the best way to link to other brains, that's today's lesson, is just to participate this creativity tool too. Thank you, Ken, to give us permission to continue. I will attend every live session, whatever it is, whatever time it is, I will do that. I will redo all the Twitter's exercise. I try to do the Fletcher exercise because, I just saw some exercise is not doable as an individual, as a, as a no military person. So I will focus on put all learnings into action. So like I said this couple of weeks ago, what I realized, I have learned so much. So next will be put into action. I will have my version of a kata challenge. I plan to do that. I tried, but I didn't follow strictly to the rules. I will do my kata challenge. Just focus on the 3 patterns, and also try to improve my decision making on the flight. Also to do, reviews my past trading experience, leverage that to learn from myself. The third thing will be, try to leverage past learnings and knowledge I learned from other coaches. Still need to review. I don't want to give up all those learnings. The example will be market timing, market type, the trading options, the long-term patterns, and micro themes like trading gold miners. That's roughly my plan. Have to think about that again today. Finish the weeks. That is my take today. Oh,
Where's the stick? Tom Hardison.
Good morning and good afternoon. I really enjoyed Hume's summary. It just is as a reflection on his experience and on his learning and what is coming up for him, and on our journey together and the benefit of learning together as a cohort, and what that has enabled each of us to make progress on and see both ourselves, our practices, our systems, and how as a community we help each other. So thank you, Q. That was a real gift. Scaling creativity, I feel like we've been practicing each one of our calls as a group, bringing what has arisen for us and hearing others' perspectives and how they look at it then helps me think about, well, how do I put that into practice? I feel like I've been, to Chun Long's comment, what we resist persists. I've had a lot of things I've been resisting that have just, the resistance has dissolved through this process. And I'm in a better place of practicing things that work better, like ruthless risk management and cutting losses, and having a learning journal and a to-do list, and following the plan, prepare, execute, assess as just a way of having disciplined execution, disciplined practice, and refining it. Not as something that I must do, but as something that I know works. So that's been, I think, a shift for me in moving from judging myself to just being more open to learning, which is, I think, the creative aspect of this, of saying, oh, well, that works. Okay, how do I put that into practice? How do I refine it? And where am I limiting my practice because it's routine? And where's the opportunity to stretch that practice in new ways? And the professional assessment was a good way to help me look at 74 different ways of how I'm practicing and not practicing or limiting myself. So it's just being able to walk around and take different perspectives of the system. It's our biases, certainly my biases, as I tried to communicate in the 8 ways I keep myself from cutting losses from Annie Duke. Those biases exist, and being aware of them doesn't keep me from doing that. It's seeing the implications of them and seeing the opportunities and differences. And it's that aspect of creativity, of being able to look at the world from many different viewpoints, that has been incredibly useful. I hope.
Jeffrey.
All right, hello everyone. So I wanted to jump in here a little bit earlier this time, and I hope it's okay with you guys. I'm going to talk sort of on behalf of Sonal and I today, unless she might chime in, which could happen. Part of that's because we're sort of in a lobby here, so it seems like an opportune time. Plus, we're stitching together a bunch of different bits of tech, which may run out of battery at some point and become distracting. So I'm trying to get it out of the way a little bit early to make sure that we don't become disruptive. One of the benefits is we had to come in and buy something, so I got to get myself a Guinness. And so that's kind of keeping me warm on a cold day. And really what, Sonal and I were talking earlier today about the creativity course in general, and just sort of like doing a reflection on the whole thing, right? And so, in a way, 30 weeks, guys, here we are, we're still going, right? So here, cheers to everyone, and especially a cheers to Ken, and a big thanks to Ken for putting this together for us. And if you guys are anything like us, you probably didn't necessarily realize what we were in for when we first started out on this, right? And so it's been really, I think, eye-opening and just a great learning experience and fun overall. And I think one of the nicest elements of it is just how well we've gotten to know each other, I think as well. And so from a continuing point of view, we'll do our best to continue, but we're also aware that we've got other commitments which are going to prevent us from probably continuing every week. So I think we'll chime in when we can. But for example, next week I'm off to Switzerland finally, yes, to go and do some skiing. I've got some friends coming over from the States, and we're going to go and see my buddy out in Zurich and drive over and see them just on the Austrian border, which is going to be great. But actually, it's fortunate that the official one the official Creativity 202 ended today, but I'm aware that this will continue with the myths because I was looking through the lessons earlier. So, and a couple of things just coming up and thinking about creativity, as well as the scale, the exercise or the lesson from today, right? The group creativity exercise. And one of the things was, well, I've got two examples on the group stuff. And the first one I was thinking about, and you guys are aware that I'm involved with the STA, the Society of Technical Analysts over here. And I don't know if I've mentioned this yet, but there's we're putting together a conference, it's a one-day conference. It's called Technicals to Trading Systems. And so this is basically taking technical analysis and turning it into trading systems. Some of those may be automated or not. But it's kind of like it's aimed at professionals to an extent. So, you know, guys working in institutions and banks and that sort of thing. But I ended up, because I'm on the board there, I ended up sort of getting thrown under the bus with somebody suggesting that I lead this because I'm into trading systems and quantity stuff and that sort of thing. And I sort of reluctantly sort of agreed in saying that, as you said, I don't have time to do that. But they assured me that we had a really good group of people that would be, you know, willing to help out and that sort of thing. And so we got a team together, and I tell you what, it's really come together. So we only just put it out this week. Really, we sort of like emailed out, you know, to lists and stuff this week that this is going to happen. And you know, I've clearly been involved, but the team as a whole has managed to get all kinds of things going that I would never have been able to do on my own. So and just with regards to ideas and naming of the conference and who we should get involved and all of that sort of thing. So
I keep wanting to call it Quant Fest, but he won't take that one on.
That was the original name was QuantFest 23, which was yeah that was kind of overruled at one point. But no, it's going to be good. I mean, you guys are, you know, invited along. I'll send some stuff out as well. Don't feel obliged, but it's you know, we've got Perry Kaufman's going to come. He's going to do a masterclass for about he's getting like a double slot. I managed to get Rob Carver involved. He used to work at a hedge fund over here, Man AHL, doing systematic trading for many years. And now he does his own thing. He's written like 4 books. All around very cool guy. And I get to speak because I'm throwing my name in the hat. I'm going to get up there with those guys. And we got a whole bunch of other industry sort of professionals, you know, in institutions, and we're going to have a panel and all that kind of stuff. And it's only like 200 pounds if you're a member, and it's like 50 pounds more if you're not. So we tried to make it cheap. And then we just decided that we're going to make it Zoom based as well. So it's like a hybrid event. The venue can do like a live and a Zoom based. We weren't sure if we wanted to do that. Anyway, I didn't mean to talk about that so much. It's just that's happening. It might be a cool thing. It's going to be in April, and I'll figure out how to make sure you guys know about it if you want to partake. But the point was, just through the team there, you know, and you know, I guess working for ourselves, you know, and being traders and that sort of thing, we can fall out of practice of working in teams. You know, we used to work in corporate, Sonal and I, and that was a normal thing. But then once you start trading for a while, you kind of like lose touch with that because it's a solo activity for the most part, except from your accountability partners and you guys and that sort of thing. So it's nice to work in a team and see how that creativity can spur things on, right? The other example, one last thing, just while I had STA on the mind, is that we briefly talked about it last week, but I finally convinced Ken to do a fireside chat for the STA, and that's going to happen in February. So February 7th, that's only a couple weeks off. That'll be Zoom based. You guys can come along live, no charges or anything on that. So we'll make sure that you guys hear about that too. That's going to be a fun time. I already know. So. Okay, so back to the group and the scale side of things. The other thing that Sonal and I were talking about earlier was the research weekends. So the Kansas research weekends, as Sonal and I know them. So KC research weekends, and you know, you guys have all been putting your works in progress out, and we've not had a chance to catch up on all of them. We've scanned through some of them already, and they're on the list. We just, you know, we're working through it as we have time, of course. But there are basically two types, in a way, of research weekend projects that tend to kind of come out. One of them is sort of like, especially for newer traders who maybe haven't been around for that long, and they might say to Ken, look, you know, I don't know what to talk about because I don't have, you know, that much experience. And then Ken would often say, look, just talk about whatever you've been doing so far. What are you up to? What's your journey so far? So I kind of classify that as like the journey so far category. And that's kind of like a work in progress. And those are always like super interesting and useful and that sort of thing. And then the other type is sort of like a deeper dive into a specific element of, you know, of research, right? So like some sort of trading, element. And so Sunil and I tend to try to focus more on that side. And hat tip to Mark McDowell, who was always a proponent of kind of diving in on that, and Robert Gardner, you know, and these guys that aren't with us anymore, sadly, but we always remember them around the KC research time. I think Ken will agree. And so on the deep dive research stuff, you know, it's normally like us trying to pick like an element of trading that we're going to focus on and try to like say, what can we test a bit more that we've seen some sort of like an edge. And you guys will see this if you haven't already. And actually, I'm pretty sure you've all seen this already, right? So it's, you know, you're doing your own trading and you're following a particular system or a flavor of one of Ken's, and you start to notice these little
nuances.
Nuances, tweaks. What would it be like well, one of yours would be like a specific entry difference, or
Could be an entry, could be an exit, could be management.
right, entry, exit management, trailing exit, trading filters, you know, all of these little things that we talk about a lot. But you know, it's those things that kind of stick out to us, and you say, huh, you know, you notice these things, and then it comes down to, you know, are we all just kind of, are we biased to see these things? Like, oh, look at that thing I noticed, that happened again, and that worked out, right? And there's all kinds of biases that can get in the way. And until you sort of like try to formalize it and either track it or turn it into a piece of research by having an excuse of having like a Kansas City research weekend, which, by the way, quick aside, you know, when the original Kansas research weekends were in Kansas, so we would go and see Ken on his home turf, and that's always fun too. I know it's more difficult to do that these days, and actually you can get a better reach with people from around the world from doing it sort of, you know, Zoom based or remote based, but it's actually quite cool and special to go and meet everybody. And that's when you get that sort of group creativity really kind of kicking in, because you can present in front of the room. You've done your work, you present in front of the room, and everyone kind of listens and then also chimes in with, you know, ideas and, oh, I tried this before, and you might want to check out this, and, you know, that sort of thing. And so I'm also aware that you guys have put your videos out for those research weekends, and we haven't yet, and we've not forgotten. We've been considering which elements are going to be the most useful that we think would be both for us and will dovetail into projects that we already have underway, and also, you know, for you guys to hopefully, you know, sort of learn something from as well. And, you know, for those projects, which are like research weekend projects that you do, that, you know, you often fall into the trap, or I do anyway, where I want to like find something cool and then present it to the group and say, look, I did this tweak and it improved results by X, or it did X, Y, and Z, or something like that. But it's also important to point out that it doesn't necessarily have to be that. It could be something that you thought was a good idea and tried it out, and it turned out that it didn't work out that well. And that's just something that somebody else later knows that they don't necessarily have to do, right? So that could be a piece of research that you think, I was thinking about doing that, but maybe not, right? Those guys have done it for me, and that doesn't seem to have the most juice. Let me go and focus on something else. So, so anyway, so we are still, we've got two main ideas for projects that we've got sort of underway, and one of them is sort of an entry nuance idea that we were talking about just recently, and I think that would be helpful for us and probably for everybody. And the second is a specific sort of system, which is more Sunil's system. It's one flavor of the Ninja Chimp systems that she's been talking about.
Yep.
And it's got a whole bunch of elements of other works that have come before.
Yeah, so there's a couple of things I'd want to just on this bit flesh out. What I've been thinking about, and I'm still, in all honesty, digesting the lessons that have come out of our 30 weeks. By the way, thank you all for showing up every single week, or the majority of them. So, you know, your contributions and time spent has not been missed at all. In fact, it's really valuable. So heartfelt thanks. What I'm thinking, what we were thinking was, well, how can I take some of the lessons, if not all of them, and integrate them into a research project, which can then be researchy in the truest sense. So if we took, I mean, we talked about all the multiple personalities that reside within this creature. And if we took the Ninja Chimp has more than one system. I mean, if you look at the blue as a color, how many shades of blue are there? And so picking just one and then presenting it both to the left side of the brain and the right side of the brain, what I'm currently thinking we could do is demonstrate one of the systems the Ninja Chimp trades, what the personality is. So it's synchronizing the personality of the trader, the system, and also the market conditions. So what routines does a chimp operate? What rules does a chimp abide by? Can we start to quantify them in a tradey way so we can actually communicate them to the tortoise cohort? And then can we then start to test that specific flavor in amongst another system test idea that Jeff's got? Don't know if I've said that.
Yeah.
As well as I could. But can I just do a couple? Are you?
Go for it. Yeah. You go and I'll finish off with it. I've covered most of mine. You go ahead. Yeah.
So I wanted to ask one question. Does anybody else find themselves saying "aho" in normal life? Like when you've made a point, you kind of say "aho." Just saying. I noticed Chulong did it after his rant with the police, you know, the public and the police thing, and he said "aho," but no. And then the next point, so I thought I'd do that too. I wanted to just spend a little bit of time remembering Robert Gardner and Mark McDowell. So one of our lessons, I think it was our very first lesson, I can't remember the name of it. It might have been Born to Innovate, whatever the title. There was a magnifying effect that one of our lessons had on me particularly. I think it's when we, you know, I decided let's just go do the dojo thing and people looking at screens. And it harks back to Robert Gardner. So when I was new in this world, in the tortoise world, I was following whichever flavor of RLCO. I don't think it was a P1 at the time, but it was one of the RLCO techniques. And I didn't really know anybody in the community other than Jeff, but I would chat regularly. And I remember Robert Gardner, he would have a number of phrases. He would have the phrase "turnaround Tuesday." He would be like one of these very seasonal professionals, very steady, level-headed, solid, wise. Didn't really say too much, but when he did, you would pay attention and learn loads. One day, Robert chose to pick on me. That's how it felt. And he took this magnifying glass on a very sunny day. And I was underneath that magnifying glass. And he said, "Okay, so you are making a whole bunch of noise, young lady, in the nicest possible way. You're talking a lot. It's a lot of noise here. You're trading a lot. But I'd like to understand, are you able to articulate your rules in a clear, concise, unambiguous way, such that somebody else who's not sitting in the same room, somebody who doesn't know you, is able to trade that system. Can you do that? And if you can, we'll have a conversation. So I remember not really dealing with that very well, because I was like, who is this man and why am I being picked on? And I found that what actually happened was the scrutiny made me hugely uncomfortable. I felt like a red, really red sore thumb. That must have been ego. I don't know what it was, but it was, I was like, why me? There's like another 50 people here in this room, but he was trying to help. And I found that it made me ask myself if I really knew what I was doing. Was I really being mindful? Well, if I wasn't able to explain what it was I was doing, what was I doing really? And were these results reliable? So he was teaching in Robert's way how to be systematic and solid. And more specifically, if you've got something and it's working, you can now start to build confidence in it being robust. But you don't know what you don't know until you truly examine it and you truly test it. So that brings me to Mark McDowell. And I remember Mark McDowell also had amazing sayings. One of them was, support is support until it isn't. Simple statement, but support is support until it isn't. And so I have a very strong recollection of Mark in one of these Kansas weekends when we were sat opposite each other in that horseshoe formation. Oil was tanking and I was a little missed by the dip. And I remember Mark looking at me, taking the other side of my trade all day long. And so he was very keen on research for the sake of research for utility, to save each other time so that we could all learn. And that was the truest sense, or one of the truest sense of group. I can't remember what the phrase they used in this exercise. It wasn't group think, but group scale. And we would find that individuals would come with their slant on their work in progress, which they would have researched. And at the end of the presentation, there would be a Q&A. That's where the scaling happened. It was really fascinating because we stayed there for 3 or 4 nights and people would let it, cogitate, go away, have a sleep, come back. And whatever was on the roster for the following day would often be kind of like nudged down the agenda because these insights and ahas and, solutions were starting to materialize right in front of us. So I just wanted to remember those 2 special individuals. And, the more uncomfortable one makes you feel, the bigger the lesson. And that includes how we feel when we're trading. So on this research project, we both felt that we needed to step up a little bit more and see if we could integrate the creativity lessons into storytelling, and all the way end to end from storytelling through to a research project. And one of the things that's unrelated to the presentation when we get there in itself, but related to the next level, will be the work that I'm doing in my work in progress around the whole, how do we sort our heads out while we're trading, that kind of thing. I'm wondering if I can start to leverage our community to pull together our own clinical trial of traders, so traders' experiences. So I don't know, I'm still going to have a think about what metrics I want to collate and what I want to do with them, and how we can stop them being subjective, but something really useful. And that's going to go down to the whole mind management of trading. So I know that kind of went way off beam in terms of what I'm trying to express, but I don't know. I think what I'm trying to say is that we've had so much input through Creativity 202. I've been asked multiple times, what are you getting from it? Should I do this? And when I first started this, quite genuinely, I was like, what's this got to do with trading? I mean, I love creativity and I love stories. But what's this got to do with trading, right? And it's only, and is it worth it? That's what a lot of people ask. Is this worth it? And it's like with anything, it's what you put in. It's what you put in, and it's how you reflect. And that's just a personal belief system. And it's only with that reflection and that process that I'm going through right now that I'm starting to pull the threads of utility of all the different influences and the ways that we've looked at things through to date. So I'll probably give it back to you.
All right. Yeah, I think you said it beautifully, actually. And so just to pull the rest of that back together, no, just to sort of summarize, I guess, in the end. From the Research Beacon point of view, we've got a couple ideas. We'll come back to you guys with what we end up with there, and of course, we'll deliver it back to you guys. But if we go down it'll probably come up for either of them actually. But if we specifically, it's almost that self, system, and market Venn diagram overlap idea. And we tend to focus a lot on the system side, and that's the first element that we spoke about, right? That's maybe one of the Ninja Chimp systems that we just want to do some more quantifying over a few different elements of that and see if we can come out and prove that the mechanical version of that has juice, so that the discretionary overrides, which would include some of the market conditions, will be of benefit. And then the other element that Sonal was talking about around the mindset is more the self, right? So that's like the self side of that, and trying to get all of those things into that middle of the Venn diagram where we hit the sweet spot. And she's been doing excellent work on this, like going really deep into mindset, into sort of like the neurology side of it, and it actually in a lot of the ways that the creativity course has dovetailed with that quite nicely as well. Just like delving into what makes us tick, and the different conditions that we sort of see within our own mind. So we've got those two elements that are yet to come, and my plan is to pull those together. And if the systems bit specifically works out well mechanically, the plan is that will become one of the 5 systems that we're going to run live as an experiment going forward, and we'll have the results of that sort of available live for tracking purposes, and then we get an idea of how a system actually runs going forward as well. So that will be one of the 5. That's the current plan. Other than that, we've taken up a lot of time here.
Yeah.
So thanks for your patience. Thanks.
I owe you all individual emails on your project, so bear with, they will come through.
Yeah, and hopefully that worked out okay here. We obviously got the screaming baby come in next to us. Hopefully Zoom did an okay job of filtering that out. Okay, so finally, aho.
Yeah, hat tip to Saint Robert Gardner and Mark the Magnificent McDowell. The reason that we're here now is because Robert Gardner and I had, an email exchange for, almost 2 years of just constant, you felt like being under the microscope. Yeah, that's what it was like to be on the receiving end of him. And there was just so much there. It was like, God, I got to find some way to get that into artifact form and document, the discussion so that other people could benefit from that. And from that, the entire tortoise community of practice has developed, starting with the initial vision statement that he and I cranked out in about 10 minutes about what our purpose was. And that's been the guiding force for the next 25 years. From that little just moment, that was like, yep, that's exactly what we're going to do. And anytime I've ever thought about doing something, new or stretching or going other directions, it always gets run through that lens to see how does this fit inside that as the master vision, master plan. And that was really, really important. And Robert Gardner cared enough to tell you exactly what he thought.
Yep.
And trusted you enough to be able to take it. And if he didn't bother telling you the truth, that really was kind of an indicator too. You know, like
Well,
you're
it
not
was one of
ready for
those
it. You know.
it was one of those things where, you know, I remember Sonal at the time being like, oh, and then
Right.
and then for months afterwards, like,
Yeah.
you know, we're still sort of remembering, and now many years later, it's still in there, right? So I mean,
Oh, yeah.
that's the benefit of taking the tough medicine with
I
that.
can tell you the harshest criticisms are the biggest pivots that I've
Yeah.
experienced today, and they still drive me. So
Well, I would just say, just to put a pin on this one, and you know, interrupt a little bit the standard flow. I'm as we speak, I'm building the section in the Creativity 202 course for your debriefs of the course. You know, so Kyun and Chun Long are in there, and Tom will be in there. Ernie, looking at you too. But also, I think I've been trying to figure out what to do with those hundreds of hours of gold mining, those piles, and I've got to put that, I think, into one community of practice in those two groupings, as you've noted, and that we build a common reading room and listening room for those the personal journeys and also the technical pieces. And you're absolutely right. That's exactly how we kind of did those, because it was if you didn't have a research specifically, then it really was important to do a survey of your practice and then report on it in public in order to learn from the presentational knowledge that only comes from telling your story on the record in public with accountability. There, you know, as Mark Twain would say, a man who grabs a cat by the tail learns something about cats that he cannot learn in any other way. You know, and that's exactly what it's like being up in front of that, on that stage in front of Gardner and McDowell and all you got, Mark Holland. I mean, that was some magical bravery in those moments. So we're going to honor that by creating that kind of reading room, um, and get that going. So, and yes, and all on the access to the community of practice for the mind management and all that is that's given. Whatever you want to do, we'll do it, and we'll do something special, because I think there's more to do with the short bursts of creativity and protreptic coaching and storytelling is just too important not to do it. Even if people can't see themselves doing the 30-week course, there's ways that we can do some in stride, high intensity things that are good. So, like going for an annual vitamin B12 shot to, you know, to heal the system. We'll do some of that, or like the weekend retreats for that kind of periodic cleansing. There's something in that model
Yeah.
that's important. So we'll get something going on in their memory. So that's kind of the aho on that. Let me find the stick, and here we go. Good.
Hey everyone. So starting with the one word I had last week was rabbit, courtesy of Ernie's story. Sorry, so now stole that from you, I know. So yeah, Ernie was just using that phrase and triggered it off because I actually knew last week that this is the Chinese New Year of the rabbit, so it's kind of coincidence, or maybe not. Anyway, and then kind of other associations with rabbit is the Matrix. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes, right? So, and talking of rabbit hole, I spent a lot of time in there this week with my presentation, and it seemed never ending. how can 20 something slides, and even if you talk at 2 minutes per slide, take 3 days, right? I was waking up and I get on with it. My wife was totally, had enough. He said, you gotta finish this thing. You've been talking about it for 2 weeks. Like I'm not gonna have you talking about it for another 2 weeks. So I would get up, I have breakfast and get all the stuff. And the first thing I would do is probably, start up the PowerPoint again and do the stuff. And actually on Monday, I think it was Monday, that I said, I'm gonna just get this done, because just record it and say whatever happens. Whatever happens, happens. And I did. I recorded it all. And I used Zoom, because that was what I knew at the time. And like a fool, I went straight through, right? It was one take, because Zoom, I didn't know how to stop and then come back in the continuity and all that. And the video failed to save after 1 hour. It was on 1 hour video, and I remember Ken was like, he always does this record first, and I said, after 1 hour, I said, oh my gosh, it's like it's very close to losing it, which I haven't done for a long time. Thanks to Super Trader Foundation. Oh no, thanks to the position sizing game thing, which is super frustrating. And things you learn on Creativity 202. So, but like Creativity 202, you get to this stage, and necessity is the mother of invention. You're the unknown. What do you do? I say I can't do another 1 hour, because it's just tiring. So I kind of tried a few things, researched a few things, but then I realized actually PowerPoint itself has got an incredible function now, which you could actually do a recording, and you can do it slide by slide, and it even has like speaker notes, and it's set up. It's quite incredible. And speaking of PowerPoints and AI that Chen Long was talking about, the new designer function, I mean, wow. I mean, you put in a keyword, it gives you a super design. So for those of you coming next who wants to do some really nice design, just use the designer function. It's fantastic, because I used to work a lot in PowerPoint, and making management information. And back in the day, you'd have to like really think about what you want to do, and the design, you basically do it all manually. But now it's just, yeah, incredible stuff. So yeah, it felt like, so I just kept doing this for another but it seems quite incredible that 20 something slides takes like two more days to record. And I felt like I was in Inception, when you go down another level, the 2 minute become years. And so, but anyway, I'm really happy that I got there. So this week, hopefully, I'm not going to wrap it on as I did in the presentation for 50 minutes, but I'll keep it short. So yeah, that was the presentation, most of my work in progress last week. And then other associations, I guess, with this is like pulling a rabbit out of a hat. Maybe you look for the unexpected and just accept the gift. Moving on to the trader exercise. I actually know the person, and I think Chan Long probably knows who he is as well, but I'm not going to give it away. But well, after doing this presentation, it's just so many things seem just resonate with me, and I was like nodding to all the points and everything he said. Said, oh wow, that really makes sense, and I understand. I guess maybe part of it is actually starting on the journey of the trading journey as well. So things like know yourself, he said that, and I thought actually that could have been one of the angle that I took with my trader journey, but I think it got somewhat cut. Then this should all be fun. I think that's what he said, and I thought, wow, that's a great reminder. We don't just want to go. It's not a grind every day, and if it becomes so destroying, then maybe we should review what we're doing. It should all be fun. So. And then he said, I can be patient for 1 to 2 years while I build a rock solid tool set that will never leave me. Which, in terms of time, I think that's that kind of is resonated with me and just reminded me that, you know, it takes time to build something. Don't expect things to be going in 3 months or very quickly. So, and I also appreciated the kind of detailed step by step. I was kind of in awe of him. I mean, that is quite phenomenal job that he's got. And I think I don't know if he's an engineer or maybe he's in IT. And I kind of think maybe the engineers like, you know, Chen Long and the IT people have a knack for doing this thing step by you know, this detailed stuff. Because I'm more, I feel like I'm more big picture guy and kind of gloss over the kind of step by step thing. Yeah, so that was my reflection on the trader exercise. And really, after threatening that to be less is more for a while, I think that's what I'm gonna do this time. I hope.
Yeah, that guy was he's a software engineer, game designer in charge of a team and a super trader. And so, yeah, it reflected in his simultaneously tactical but also strategic and very clear process steps the way a programmer thinks in chunks and modules. So, yeah. Ernie.
Well, I'm already embarrassed and I haven't even started. You guys are phenomenal as always. And I've been reflecting this week, and I miss some of the people who were part of the creativity from the past. I was going through the videos, and it's like, oh, I wish this person had stayed with us. You know, I mean, they missed so much. So I'm hoping that they're watching. But on my part, I really miss them because you guys have just been amazing with the things that you've shared with us, and and I miss the other group. I'm sorry that I was writing to a couple of them. You know, I wanted to say, well, if the group is shrinking, and I can always see if Ken would like for me to switch over anything to save you guys. But I didn't get a response, but Luke is on vacation, so I understand that. But I just wanted to keep them so bad, and I think it's partly because I knew we were getting close to the end, and I know I'm worried that I'm going to miss you guys, and I'm going to miss this a little bit because, well, I'm going to miss it a lot. But and you know, I've Kuhn and I have talked a few times through Zoom, and that's been an amazing experience to get to know him better. And Tom, you know, as you guys know, he came to my rescue whenever I didn't know what to do about accountability partner. So it's I don't know. It's just I know that I'm going to miss it, but I understand that life gets in the way. We have our priorities, you know, God, family, country first. And so I really understand that. And I have to admit, when I was talking with Kuhn, my thought was, what do we do to preserve this? You know, I'll get Zoom and I'll try to help a little bit. But then I kept thinking more and more about it. And it's like, you know, that's a lot of work. And it's a lot of responsibility, you know. If you don't feel like doing anything this week, you don't show up. So it's no problem. But I really appreciate what you guys are sacrificing in a way and what you're going through, because it is a lot of work. So my hat is off to you, and I can't tell you how grateful I am to every one of you for what you have contributed, because it really has meant a lot to me. And going through the lesson, the scaling creativity, the scale I knew was important, and it talked about team, but I was looking at it from the standpoint of an individual. Whenever I first started with the tortoise community, I was having trouble grasping the whole thing, triple screen, the 5-day down, all these things. It was a little bit overwhelming, but it was plugging through and trying to understand it. But then Ken came up with this idea of don't start with just some just a few things. Start with supported spring crossing. Just do that. Just do the kata 2. Just do a collapsing dragon. And it was so it started small, and it really, really, really helped. I can't tell you how much. It's like, well, I'm understanding this one thing. I understand supported spring crossing. Can't even talk today. So it was really amazing, and I understand that part from an individual standpoint, how much starting small and then growing, letting it expand as I was able to grasp it. And I'm not going to grasp these concepts as fast as other people. The other thing that I did this past week is going through some of the Kansas City research weekends that Ken was very kind enough to make available to me, and to see what some of the things that they did. It's really impressive, and I miss those people. I didn't even get to know them. They're names that from the past, and obviously had been really been with the tortoise community for a while. They really got into it, and they got to the point where they were comfortable making a presentation. And then not only did they make presentations, but it was impressive. It was really, I was just really overcome by that whenever, I just felt they were awesome. So it's one of the things that I read on our lesson today. It talked about ignition, and that you go to yes and it's like I remember watching the whenever they would go to the moon and watching all of these NASA presentations and things, and always it was they would always do ignition liftoff, and just gave me goosebumps whenever that would happen. And it's like ignition, it's like once you start, there's no going back. And then you really do have to take the approach of yes and going from there. So, and I know that I'm sort of that point with my investing, that well, with ignition, I think the point that I'm trying to make is that there's a lot of work you do before you get to that point. And I enjoy that part of it, and I'm afraid of ignition, because is it the end? But it's really the beginning. But I'm having trouble with that, and I fear it. So I kind of feel like that's where I am now, close to the end of creativity. Ken's almost ready to say ignition, and now it's like up to me to take, what am I going to do at that point, and what does yes and mean to me after ignition. So the reading about Trader PB, great thoughts. Boy, a lot of the things that he wrote, I really feel that. And there's just the TC 2000 has been really good for me, because I was able to go in there and explore some of the things. I'm like, how did Danny do some of this thing? And then just looking at what he did, I didn't reverse engineer it. I'm not that good, but I reverse engineered pieces of it, and in doing that, I really was getting a lot out of it. So Trader PB had some great thoughts. I appreciate Ken making that available, and I appreciate Trader PB allowing us to read that. So you guys have been phenomenal. I wish I could contribute at your level. Then still trying, and it's fun. And thank you for what you have shared. And I've really gotten a lot. So it's been I don't know. I wish I knew what to do to let other people know how valuable this is. I'm really surprised. When I started, I mean, I wasn't part of it at the beginning because I looked at it and I thought, I don't know if this is going to be all that great. And Tom Hardison, you're the one that kind of really made me take a second look at it. And so then I have to write to Ken and beg him to, can I still come in at this late point? And thank you for doing that. Because this has been an amazing experience. Getting to know all of you has been wonderful. So I'll say aho.
Tom.
Wow, you guys are awesome. And Ernie, you're amazing. You've added so much to this course. So ignition. Well, first I'll go into push. I mean, my word from last week was push, and one of the things that I think we were talking about a locomotive and its slow start. And sometimes, when I'm stuck at the railroad track, I'll notice that like at the end there's not a caboose, but there's other engines pushing. So sometimes it's hard for something to start, and it needs a little bit of push at the back of it to get it going. And once it gets going, then it could pick up momentum and continue on. And I think that's one of the things this course has done. It's given a little push, because I think at the beginning of the course, I wasn't sure about it. I had my apprehensions, and I missed a few classes. And I really decided at that point that no, I'm going to go to these classes. I'm going to put everything into it, and amazing things result from it. So in this lesson, there was a couple mentions of revisiting module 28, which I did, and one of the issues I saw was I saw how it related to our egos, putting your ego aside. I'll read from my notes. High performance creativity, starting too fast, high pressure, creates struggles, triggers adrenaline. So stress and adrenaline work together, and it prompts the fight or flight mechanism, and it hurts your creativity. So in order for creativity to function, you need to be more relaxed and start slowly like the engine. And then as you could add more pressure to keep it running smoothly and enhance your creativity to respond better. you need to, and of course, you disassociation, and there's 0 states, and it goes into that. And one of the things, when I'm going to go right into the, I know it's been a long morning, so I'll go into the trader exercise. And it, I think about after 1 or 2 paragraphs in the trader exercise, there was a video on Ira Glass, and his explanation of when he first was, I guess, doing reporting, and he reviewed a video from the past about one of his discussions, I think, and he said, as he's reviewing, he goes, "What am I talking about?" And actually, it reminded me of when I think I watched one of our creativity classes, and I watched myself, and I'm like, "What am I doing?" I'm staring down. I'm like, or what was my word? What did I say? And so it was like kind of refreshing to see that somebody in a professional level has gone through something like that. And another thing he mentioned in there, how it took him years to develop to where he's at. And I could relate to that, because I think the first class I took with Ken Long was back in probably 2016, 2017. And I'm still like popping in. I'm learning more through this course and sticking more focused on the trading system and this process of trading than ever before. So that's encouraging. One of the other after, and I did listen to the interview on the Course Lab with Ken, and I listened to the whole interview, and then like there was like a 2-minute, maybe 3-minute segment at the end where the interviewers put in takeaways from their interview, and I was like, wow, this would be nice to listen to. And the takeaways were like, they were really loved Ken's optimism and energy. He sounded experienced and skilled, and the co-creation and adaptivity that he uses and his on-the-fly type of outlook is like the opposite of perfection and the opening up of iteration and improvement. And I thought that was, I was just like, oh yeah, it's just awesome. So I'll roll back. When I went back and look at, we talked about cross-pollination, and I get that through this course. I mean, everybody's input into the course is every week is like a cross-pollination and encouraging, and really helps foster our own creative, or my own creative experiences and things to apply during the week. Some of the things I began to do with the nightly reviews is kind of reviewing traders' trades. I'll put the trade up on my other screen, and I'll just go through the chart. I'll pause the video. I'll go through the chart and see entries, exits, and I'll compare minimum manageable risk box and see how the trade resulted for each trade. And I'll use whatever I have to improve at that level of trading that I need to get to. So and it's really been a great class, and I really enjoyed this weekly. So I hope.
Yeah, so I want to just hit a speed run of some quick comments. I'd already talked about the research weekends and you know the ways forward and how we're going to preserve the goodness. Um, and I would just remind Jeff that we have not forgotten that on your periodic check-ins, we're expecting about a monthly update of the meta system for accountability in some very efficient way with one chart to show the dashboard and with a space for lessons learned and then planned adjustments. So I want you to think of that as a like a car talk show, you know, where they're showing the things and it's concise and but also the lessons learned for the month ahead and the adaptations that you intend to make on the basis of data. A really good Western series that kind of captures what we've heard today about the, you know, the relationships between people that have been on the journey and are in the journey and are periodically checked is Lonesome Dove. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but it's about a 4 episode long form movie with Robert Duvall and a cast of legends. And there's a very real sense of the preciousness of every moment and the relationships between the characters, and they come and go, and they go on their own ways and periodically check back in. And there's always the sense simultaneously of, you know, you never step in the same river twice, but it's always the river. And that leads me to sort of the initial vision statement of the tortoise community of practice and the base camp and campfire model, or the Rivendell model of what we're doing. That we've got a base camp populated with Sherpas in here and other mountain climbers, and there's a path that leads to the mountain that we're climbing. There's lots of paths up there, and in the distance you can see cities and towns and superhighways and commercial buses and guided tours and whatever. And our path is our path. That there's a little bridge over a stream that leads to a base camp where there is, yeah, there's a workshop, but there's also a library and a dojo and a garden and a reading room and a great room and a place to work out and a barn and pigs and a place to go hunting and a path that leads towards the mountain and with you know, purple mountains in the distance that are fuzzy and cloudy and beyond which are other things. So that open-ended thing and a place of it. And so whatever it is that you need, there it is. And then we have places to, you know, to share around the campfire. That's sort of always been my intention of what kind of place to be. That it's, I mean, it's where I live and work, and it's all the doors always open, and that people come in from there are times like in Australian walkabouts, you've got to go take that walk because that's the thing for you to do. And you come back with the story, and we share those stories in a certain way. And that we leave artifacts where we go, and we make artifacts when we come back, and we share those, and that becomes part of the tribal wisdom. So that's the importance of artifacts. Is indescribable. That they become like the apple is the artifact of the tree, and it grows other trees and other apples. That's the connection. It's the convergence after the divergence that comes back and encapsulates all of that stuff. And I think of the Diamond Sutra and the idea that in our story circles, there's some central truth that we're all experiencing, and then our vision of that truth is through a window, through a lens. And then when we realize eventually and fairly quickly in this process that all of us are looking through our particular facet, telling the story about what we see, which creates the actual gem itself is our testimony about that interface between us and our personal view of this truth. And so what you got is this this diamond rotating through space, and every facet is part of it, and it's all about the same truth, but each facet is its own thing, and it's a precious thing that endures. And there's something about how that ties together the folks that are in orbit, whether they're in that immediate circle or not. It's when you get to come back from you get to go on your journey, because you know that that is still there, ready for you to come back and enjoy and sustain yourself and thrive, all in that little roundabout that we have. If you think about all the R words that are in there: rest, relaxation, restoring, recommitment, reverie, reverence, all of those things are happening in that roundabout, and it accepts you wherever you are coming from, and you get to stay as long as you need, and it gives you that revolving resurgence to go out and do the next thing whenever the time is right. So Lonesome Dove really captures that in that Western genre really well. In Tolkien, it's Rivendell, the last homely house east of the sea. So all the elves who would go back to the west, that was the last place they would stop before getting up. But it was also the last house before the Misty Mountains, so that everybody that was going to try to cross it, that was the place. And that's the place where Bilbo Baggins went when his time was done in the Shire. And he had his own little spot, and he wrote his book, and that's my dad's favorite character, and that's has a special place in my heart for what we're trying to do. So the importance of artifacts, and then Ernie's point about first things first and taking the step, and then ignition, countdown, ignition, and liftoff, and there you go. I would combine that with the idea of the maximum sustainable rate of change as a career educator, which means I'm a career teacher and a career student, which is the same thing. When there's so much to learn, that you really must be concerned about your maximum sustainable rate of change. There's only so much you can do in a burst. So high intensity interval training has a role to play inside there. But then there's also the rest and recovery. And then there's some trade-off between when do you rest, when do you walk, when do you jog, when do you sprint, when do you cruise, and maintaining that, the maximum sustainable rate of change over a lifetime of effort. Features all of those. That's where that trade-off comes from. And I'll conclude by saying the idea of the co-creation that comes out of that little interview I did, and the constant adaptation and the mutual roles, it really is the living course. It is a living course of growing in your understanding of the practice. And as Tom Sullivan talked about going back and listening again, I mean, when I go back and listen to those other coaching videos, I'm always kind of cringing about what I'm going to hear myself saying as I try to coach others based on who I was at that time and what was I saying and how did I say it. And so the act of that coaching is really a social group effort with the group mind. And when we are all making artifacts, it improves all of our tool sets. And that's one of the other things you find in that little dojo is in the Army, we call that the common number one toolkit that all the mechanics need periodically for specialty work. You have a general mechanics toolkit, which is what you carry all the time as yours, but then you can always go to the tool room and to the tool custodian and sign out the specialty tools that you need to do the thing that you're going to do, to perform the quarterly or annual service and then put it back in place. And the tool room custodian takes care of the accountability, the maintenance, the serviceability, incorporating new tools, and performs the training to all the mechanics on the new tools that we have. So that is a living model of sustainable maintenance and life cycle management of our trading enterprise. And the adaptation, the living course, really does mean that, as Tom Hardison said, that we got to get out of the judging and into the learning and assessing about where we are, and so that 70 element job book is sort of just it's only we stopped at 70 because okay, you've made your point. There's a few things to think about periodically, and you could make that list infinite because that's how many other objects there are in the world that you want to have a relationship with, and you're gonna learn about your relationship with each and every other actor and agent and force in the universe. And so now there becomes sort of that, what is the living quality that you bring into all of those transactions? 1 o'clock, I'm going to go play soccer with the little soccer monkeys over at the gym. And that's sort of I'm watching Ben grow up in front of my eyes. He started when he was 4, and now he's 6, and he's a heck of a little player, and he's just funny. The things that the little personality that he brings, and me playing with him in a way that keeps challenging him, but lets him know that he's on the team, and push him a little bit for fun, and that's part of that co-creating and learning environment. So when you see all of those things as an entity, as a whole, that the your brand, your name tag, touches every single thing you do and how you do it, and that has reverberations. And so when we can move away from single snapshot judgments into some appreciation of this as a moving picture, a moving story, a living story, then we get a little more humble, a little more courteous, a little more gentle with others, and maybe some of that will roll off on how we can be a little more humble, gentle, and loving with ourselves on our journey. Just give ourselves the same benefit that we give to others. So if we can learn to do that, then I guess we're okay. Don't lose your sharp edge. Know when to use it, but cut yourself some slack now and then with that with the tool that you're creating. So that's everything I want to say about that. And like I said, I will preserve the Monday morning, or the Sunday morning and the Monday evenings, that Sunday Monday pairing. I've arranged all of my coaching and graduate school teaching around those two moments as the two highest priority things for me to do every week. And so that's always where that open door is, and you're always welcome as is. As my guest, and because of your service to the team and all that. That's what we're just going to do, and we're always looking forward to your tales from the wild, and we'll keep this thing moving. So I'm gonna hit the tones and ask you for your words for the week ahead and the next path ahead, and looking forward to the journey as it continues to unfold as we close this chapter and realize, oh yeah, there's all these appendices, and volumes 2 through N are just out there waiting to be written as we get to them. So that should be a comfort, that there's an infinite amount of time for all that work to be done, if not by us in this life, then by everybody else that is impacted by the work you've already done. So here we go around the horn, and I'll be listening for our words as they bubble up. Ready, go. Chunlong.
Frog.
Ernie.
2 words. Yes, and.
Tom Sullivan.
Coyote.
Good.
Regroup.
Jeff.
Off-piste.
Sonal.
Onwards.
Tom Hardison.
embrace?
Uh, for me, it's Mr. Baggins. Thinking about my dad this morning, and Bilbo just with his books and pens and all that other stuff. And you know, the central thing about Bilbo Baggins was uh, his compassion for Gollum in the moment. He had an opportunity to end Gollum, and he didn't because he saw in Gollum himself, and that act of gratitude and compassion saved Bilbo's life and gave him the courage to relinquish the ring. And without that act of compassion, the entire history of Middle Earth changes. And that was the central, the central message there. So I think of my dad, Mr. Baggins, and the owl meditation, and I'll be thinking about him when we play soccer with the little guys, because that's what he loved most of all. Only for him, it was hockey. He lived right down the street from Lakeland Ice Arena, where Pat LaFontaine was the owner, and he just watched the hockey players, for generations down there, and supported teams so the kids could play. He did that anonymously with our help. So just thinking about the old guy today and that continuity. So here we go, and we will see you when we next see you, Mondays and Sundays and Mondays and whenever, and we'll keep the energy going. So I think I have the debriefings from many of you, and remind me if you haven't sent them when they're ready. Suffer like Kyun did, and we'll just keep building all those things out. And if you've sent them to me, I know Chun Long has, and Tom, I think you did. And I will recover those, and the rest of you, I'm looking at you, and there's no hurry. Be quick, but don't hurry, and we'll get all of that locked into the course, and that's going to encourage a lot of people to take it on as they do. Now, I would also tell you, just the other guys that started off with us, for the most part, are still taking the course through participation at their speed, because I can see them making progress in looking at the lessons and listening to the videos, and they send me a note every now and then. Just not everybody can commit to the long run like that, but the payoff is still there, and so you get what you need from the community table, and there's no judgment, and it's always there, and infinite resources. So let you know that stuff is continuing to resonate with those folks as they can. I mean, you can see it with Charles Williamson, who's now posting weekend charts for his swing trading. He's a business owner, is doing that stuff at his pace, and so we're getting things done, and the things are happening at deep levels as we go. So take good care, guys, and we shall see you soon. And enjoy the day. Ciao for now.
Bye, everyone.